When I was very young, I knew my mother was the heroine and my father the hero because I could see the words above their heads. Holding Nanny Lucy's hand, I searched through books and pieced together that the words above my mother's head were heroine and above my father's hero. I asked Nanny Lucy what these terms meant. She smiled and told me they meant prince and princess, then read me the entire story of Snow White. From then on, I believed in the happily ever after of princes and princesses. My parents loved each other, our family was harmonious, and the only disturbance was occasionally from my grandmother urging for a second child. However, turmoil struck when I was 5, a new person with words above her head appeared. She was a very beautiful woman whom my father picked up from the airport. Upon arriving home, she cried in my father's arms. My mother and I came home from kindergarten to find them embraced. They were shocked, as were we. My father tried to explain, and so did the woman. My mother's face darkened while I studied the words above the woman's head. Villainous rival. Unfamiliar with the term, I turned to Nanny Lucy again. I asked her what those words meant, and she almost burst into laughter. Oh, our Yami, how do you know about villainous rivals at such a young age? She laughed it off as a joke to my grandmother, father, and mother. Normally, such jokes about me were the spice of our family dinners, making everyone laugh. But that day, only my grandmother laughed. My father was somber, my mother stern, and the woman nearly cried. She put down her chopsticks, panic-stricken, and said, "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry, I'll leave now and never come back." She ran out, and my father hurried after her. My grandmother couldn't laugh anymore and scolded, "Winnie, is this how you teach your child?" Nanny Lucy quickly took me away. I felt I had caused a disaster, but wondered why my mother was being scolded. I persisted, asking, "What exactly does villainous rival mean?" Nanny Lucy sighed deeply. In stories, a villainous rival is someone who tries to break up the hero and heroine. They usually pretend to be innocent and pitiful to gain sympathy, and everyone ends up bullying the heroine for her. But don't worry, the story always ends well. The villainous rival gets her comeuppance, and the hero eventually sees the heroine's worth and wins her back. She was so certain, and I believed her, but things didn't unfold as she described. The woman, named Anna, was brought back. It was raining heavily, and she was soaked, wearing my father's shirt and just shorts, her long legs bare. As my father carried her back inside, she pleaded pitifully, "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. It's only because my brother was worried that he didn't let me leave. I promise I'll leave as soon as I'm well," she said, which seemed reasonable, yet I felt a suffocating tightness in my chest. I wanted to say something but found myself at a loss for words. That night, I was awakened by my cheeks being wet with my mother's tears. I lay motionless, listening to her quietly sobbing. Did I ever say she couldn't stay here? If I had said it, I'd own up to it. But I didn't say anything. Why are these accusations being thrown at me? Why do they assume I can't tolerate her? "Timo, is this what you think of me?" I wanted to say, no, but as I opened my mouth, it was as if I had lost my voice, unable to utter a single word, until the thought of consoling my mother faded away. That terrifying feeling of being controlled slowly dissipated. This scenario repeated several times, and I realized that I was incapable of changing the narrative. We both seemed to be caught in the whirlpool of the plot. A drop of water desperately trying to escape the vortex is indeed overestimating its power, but that was my mother, my gentle, loving mother, so pure and kind. She would tenderly read stories to me, tend to my scraped knees with iodine, wake up early to make my favorite breakfast, tuck me in at night, and rush to see the doctor when I was sick. She was wonderful and didn't deserve to be misunderstood or mistreated. I, a mere drop of water, wanted to experience what it was like to swim against the current. My parents argued again because Anna had fallen down the stairs. Mother didn't touch her. Anna didn't blame her either. With teary eyes, she weakly said, "Brother, it's not your wife's fault. I was just careless." My mother was shocked, saying, "I didn't do it." My father, through gritted teeth, exclaimed, "Fine, you didn't." He gave her a cold look and then took Anna to the hospital. I tried to stop my father. I wanted to say, "Mom didn't push Aunt Anna, I saw it. She fell on purpose." But I couldn't say it. Once again, I was deprived of my right to speak. That moment, the suppressed anger ignited a small flame within me. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't lose my temper. Aunt Lucy said that the more you are framed by a mistress, the more composed you should be. I pleaded, Dad, don't go. Can we call the doctor to our house instead? But his expression grew even darker. Winnie, are you even using your child now? Don't make me lose respect for you. My mother staggered, lips quivering, eyes red. Timo, maybe you should get your brain checked at the hospital too. They parted ways unhappily again. I couldn't understand. Why was it like this? Why couldn't things be made clear? Why blame Mom again? My small body was burdened with heavy worries, almost bending under the strain. It wasn't until a small incident at kindergarten that I realized some things are indeed very hard to explain clearly. People's biases are invisible barriers, perfectly separating perception from truth. At kindergarten, the new girl Mia wanted a piece of meat from my lunch bowl. She could have just told me, but instead, she insisted on grabbing the meat. In her haste, she tripped and landed with a thud, bursting into tears. My meat, Yummy, don't take my meat, and don't push me, okay? Everyone consoled her. Casting reproachful glances my way, I protested loudly, it was you who took my meat. Not the other way around. Yet Mia, with puppy dog eyes, pitifully placed a piece of her meat into my bowl. Don't be mad, Yummy, you can have my piece too. The meat was gristly and had bite marks on it. It was the piece she'd spit out. She was trying to disgust me. I won't eat it. Then Mia's bowl fell. My usually affectionate teacher scolded me angrily. Yummy, you can't be so rude. I froze, then lost it. I refused to be mistreated like my mother. In a fit, I knocked over her bowl, my bowl, and the bowls of everyone who sided with her. If I couldn't enjoy my meal, then no one would. That day, things escalated quickly. The kindergarten teacher called our parents. My mom came and believed my side of the story. She demanded to check the surveillance footage, which clearly showed Mia taking the meat from my bowl. But Mia's parents also arrived. Her father and Anna. Mia cried and clung to her dad. Daddy, I thought my meat had gone into Yammy's bowl. I just grabbed it because I was hungry. Don't ignore me, Daddy. The truth came out that day. But things got worse. The teacher scolded me for my temper and for upsetting the meal. My parents had a huge argument, questioning why Anna had a child and why Mia called him Daddy. Anna, in tears, tried to leave but fainted, and it was found at the hospital that her heart condition had worsened. My grandmother scolded my mother for not raising me better. Everyone went to visit Anna at the hospital, leaving only my mom and me at home, both feeling quite low. I experienced the isolation and helplessness my mother endured, unable to defend herself. I asked her, Mom, did Dad become Mia's dad because I'm not good enough? I wanted to ask more. Mom, did I make things worse for you? My mom was taken aback. She bent down, hands on my shoulders, and looked at me with tender eyes, reassuring me seriously, no, it's not your fault. It's Dad's fault for not being honest with Mia, making her believe he's her real dad, and for comforting someone else's daughter while neglecting his own. You did nothing wrong. It's his fault. We shouldn't stay here. Let's go home. She quickly packed our things and took me to my uncle's house. My uncle welcomed us warmly, seeing the worry in my mom's eyes. He insisted on fighting for justice for her. My mom discouraged him, but he said as her brother, he couldn't stand by and watch his sister be mistreated. He went to the hospital, and then, he never came back. My mother and I stayed at my uncle's house for 3 days. During these 3 days, my mother had arranged for me to take leave from kindergarten. We spent our time together, watching the clouds pass by, observing the morning dew, enjoying the beauty of spring, and basking in the moonlight. It was a rare moment of relaxation in our lives. After 3 days, my uncle returned. He looked worn and hesitant, and the first words he spoke were heartrending. Winnie, can you make some room for Anna? She's sick. I was shocked and couldn't utter a word. My mother was also stunned. That day, she asked me to go back to my room and stay there for a while. She and my uncle had a loud argument in the study. Not long after, with a stern face, she took me away from my uncle's house. We wandered aimlessly through the streets. The city was large, yet we couldn't find a place to call home. Passing by a florist, my mother bought a bouquet of pure white lilies. We went to my grandmother's grave. The lilies were laid on her grave, and my mother cried unrestrainedly. She said, Mom, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you. I heard from Aunt Lucy about my parents' love story. A mature, commanding CEO and a naive college girl from two different worlds sparked a romance that seemed perfect. Aunt Lucy envied them, calling it a romantic fairy tale. However, fairy tales are deceiving. In just 6 years, their love was defeated by a third person. I wanted to say, "Mom, let's go, let's divorce, we don't need Dad," but I couldn't speak. It felt like there was a heavy weight on my mouth, making it hard even to breathe. Yet, it was my mother who brought it up. "Yami, if I divorce your dad, who would you choose to be with?" At that moment, I felt redeemed, the oppression lifted. I burst into tears. I said, "I'll stay with Mom." She held me tightly, her body radiating determination. She indeed brought up divorce with my dad. However, he didn't take it seriously. He said, "Don't make a scene, I'm busy finding a heart donor for Anna. I don't have time for this, don't cause trouble now." My mother didn't want to talk to him anymore. She simply said, "Sign the papers, and I'm gone, no one wants to bother you." She took me with her to leave that home, but my grandmother refused to let me go. "Yami is our descendant, you can go, but the granddaughter stays." Several bodyguards forcibly separated me from my mother. In that moment, I hated my grandmother. I scratched, bit, kicked, and struggled fiercely. My mother was terrified. "Yami, be good, don't hurt yourself, never hurt yourself. Mom won't leave. I will never leave again." I realized then, no, I couldn't be a burden to my mother. I stopped causing trouble. "Mom, goodbye, I will wait obediently for your return." I quickly went back to my room and lay by the window to watch my mom. She was crying. She wiped her tears away, then looked up at my window. I hurriedly pulled back, hiding behind the curtain. My heart pounded like a drum. When I peeked out again, Mom had left. I had unilaterally declared a cutoff from Grandma and Dad. I ignored them and refused to be with them. At kindergarten, I kept to myself, while Mia, with her sweet talk, became very popular. She quickly became the teacher's favorite. But I wasn't envious. I thought I was unique. I could see the lead characters and the malicious supporting characters in stories. She couldn't see any of that. My world was ultimately different from hers. Besides, I had no interest in love that had to be earned through pleasing others. At home, the only person I was willing to be close to was Aunt Lucy. She took on the role of my mother, telling me stories, comforting me, caring about my thoughts, and secretly tucking me in when I napped. She would hold her phone and chuckle quietly. When I woke up, I would stealthily hide behind her to see what she was watching. "Let's cancel the engagement party tomorrow. I won't cause you trouble. I didn't say we should break up. You have no right to leave." By then, I had recognized some characters, and, guessing and deducing, I figured out the meaning. At that moment, I felt like I had found a treasure. It was so much like the story of my parents. "Read it to me," I said. Aunt Lucy jumped, startled. "Yami, you're awake, read it to me," I insisted stubbornly. Naturally, Aunt Lucy couldn't really do that. She tried hard to persuade me otherwise. However, I went on a hunger strike in protest. Aunt Lucy felt so sorry for me. She whispered, "This is our secret, don't tell anyone." "Okay," I agreed. Since then, my bedtime readings were ostensibly Snow White, Grimm's fairy tales, but in reality, they were First Love's Dominance and The President's Sweet Wife. I listened to one after another, discovering their similar core. The hero is powerful and influential, misunderstands the heroine, hurts her, then realizes his mistake and wins her back. I seemed to foresee my mom's future destiny. She and Dad might also end up entangled in this way. But as her daughter, I felt no hope, only the immediate despair. A few days later, Mom came back. Her expression was somber, her smile forced. Facing Grandma's sarcasm, Mom responded numbly and silently. Later, I learned that Dad had sabotaged Mom's job, and each time she found a new one, he would ruin it too. Mom had to come back obediently to avoid causing trouble for others. And the divorce agreement had long been thrown by Dad into the wastebasket. Mom was like an animal trapped in a cage, a creature no one respected. Seeing me, Mom hugged me tightly. "Yami, are you okay?" "I'm doing well. How about you, Mom?" "I'm fine too." "Mom, you're lying. It's clear you're not doing well at all. I can smell it on you, the scent of despair that envelopes you." As a daughter trying to help, I solemnly handed a book about escaping to my mom. It was hard to find, but I thought it might have some strategies that could help her. Mom chuckled as she read it, but her laughter soon turned into tears. "Yami, Are you worried about me? I'm sorry for making you worry. I really wanted to comfort her. No, I just want you to be happy. But then, the door opened, and Dad walked in. His eyes immediately locked onto the book. Winnie, you're letting the child read this kind of book. It was for Mom. I stepped forward to shield her. Don't you dare bully Mom. Mom said, don't yell at the child. Dad looked from Mom to me, his expression slightly cold as he closed the door. He's acting strange. How could he not blow up at us treating him this way? I felt that it wasn't just Mom who needed changing, but Dad as well. I used my own pocket money to ask Aunt Lucy to buy a lot of books. How to be a good husband, busy dad, good dad, 9 essential rules to being a good husband, and more. I arranged these books in the study and waited by the door. When Dad entered, I took his hand and led him to the study. He was somewhat flattered. I had been ignoring him for a while, let alone holding his hand. His demeanor softened and he lifted me into the study. Seeing those books, he couldn't help but laugh. He kissed my forehead. Did you buy these? Or did Mom? Is Dad not doing well? Tears welled up in my eyes. A flood of grievances surged. Dad, caught off guard, frantically wiped away my tears. Then he apologized. I'm sorry, Yami, I'm sorry. It was wrong of Dad to neglect you and your mom. He earnestly began reading those books, striving to be a better father and also trying to explain to Mom, Mia is the child Anna had after she was raped. Anna's health is poor. She can't take care of Mia and doesn't want to see her, so she left her with a nanny. Mia is very pitiable and insecure. That's why I pretended to be her dad. Mom softened, but still stood by her views. You could have told me instead of hiding it and letting me find out on my own. Mia is pitiable, but her plight isn't my doing, and you exposed Yami to all this. It hurt her deeply. Dad fell silent, his expression complex. It won't happen again. I won't hide anything from you anymore. They were slowly improving, almost like returning to how things were at the beginning. But as things often go, when joy reaches its peak, sorrow follows. Not long after, Anna returned from the hospital. Dad went to pick her up personally. One moment she was all smiles, the next, upon seeing her mother, her face changed immediately. Who is Simon to you? Are you his sister? Let me go. I don't want to live under the same roof as a rapist's sister. The mother was struck as if by lightning. She stood there, dazed and at a loss. She had truly intended to welcome Anna back wholeheartedly. She had even decorated her room extra cozily to make her comfortable. But now, the thin veil of balance that had been maintained was abruptly torn away. The father, slightly angry and frowning, an uncommon expression for him, defended the mother. Winnie doesn't know about this. Anna cried helplessly. I'm leaving this place. I'm going abroad, and I'm never coming back. In her struggle, she clutched her chest, her face turning deathly pale, and then she collapsed. The father panicked. He blurted out, Winnie, you go outside. The mother, pale-faced, left the room staggering, looking as miserable as a lost dog. Later, Aunt Lucy told me, emotions are a multiple-choice question, and the one who is abandoned is surely not important. So that was it. So, to the father, the mother was not important? Then why did they get married? Why did they always say it was because of love that they had me? It took me a long time to roughly figure out the true story. Years ago, Anna had mistakenly entered a hotel room and was raped by her drug-influenced uncle. Afterwards, heartbroken, she fled and unexpectedly became pregnant. Due to her heart condition, she couldn't terminate the pregnancy and was forced to give birth. That day, at the hospital, upon seeing her uncle, she learned that the man who had raped her was her mother's brother. The grandmother was extremely sympathetic towards Anna, gifting her jewelry, a house, and money, urging her to move on, reminding her that the wrong was done by others, not by herself, and that she shouldn't punish herself for someone else's mistakes. The father also felt guilty. He ignored the mother's calls and texted her not to come back to avoid upsetting Anna. It was only me who scoffed. Did you do a paternity test? At that moment, it was as if someone had hit the pause button. They stared at me in shock. Then their looks gradually turned cold, subconsciously ignoring what I had said. And once again, I was left speechless. Though I was annoyed, I wasn't without gain. Because the plot intervened, it actually confirmed something. Mia might not be the uncle's child at all. Otherwise, the plot wouldn't have silenced me again. I went to the kindergarten and made an effort to be nice to Mia, offering to braid her hair. She was skeptical. I'm not falling for your tricks. Mom said you're a bad kid. Holding back my anger, I whispered, Dad said if I don't become good friends with you, he'll ignore me. Mia was thrilled. Your dad doesn't want you anymore. He'll be my dad from now on. She was so excited, she spoke loudly, and many people heard her. I had my evidence. I grabbed her hair and punched her in the face. What followed was chaos. She was crying, and I was secretly stuffing the pulled hair into my pocket. Eventually, the result was still calling the parents. Dad came, Mia rushed into his arms, crying, and I just stood there, staring at him with resentful eyes. Dad was disturbed. Yami, you have deeply disappointed me, he said. Probably too angry to even address me by my name, I replied coldly. She said that my dad doesn't want me anymore. Are you going to abandon me too? Dad was speechless. He tried to communicate with Mia, but all she did was cry, complaining about her pain and discomfort, just like her mother, always feigning weakness to gain sympathy. Dad couldn't get anything useful out of her. The teacher suggested we go home and sort it out amongst ourselves since it was Mia who was at fault, and after all, we were a family, it wasn't their place to interfere. However, I refused to go home with Dad and asked the teacher to call my uncle. I wanted to go to his house. Soon, my uncle arrived. When he saw Mia, he was so stirred up, looking for similarities between them. It was sickening. I reached out for a hug, and as he bent down, I grabbed his hair without hesitation. Why are you siding with that wicked woman against Mom? You're so mean. You're not my uncle. I held on tightly, refusing to let go. My uncle screamed in pain but was too guilty to pull away forcefully. It was only when Dad slapped me that I let go. Yami, stop this madness. My cheek stung. I released my grip and stared him down intently. At that moment, I wished he wasn't my dad. If only Mom had been a bit more carefree about love, if only she hadn't fallen for Dad, then I wouldn't be his daughter, tangled up in all this mess. It was the first time Dad ever hit me. He regretted it immediately, his eyes full of sorrow, his lips trembling. Yami, you can't behave like this. He tried to touch my head, but I pushed his arm away. You are not my dad, I said coldly. Yami, his voice weak, as if deeply hurt by me. What a hypocrite. He's the one who hurts others the most. Yet he acts like the victim. I went back with my uncle to his house. He tried to apologize. You used my mom to settle your debts. You're just as bad as my dad, I replied coldly. He was at a loss for words, looking at me as if I were a stranger. I entered the room, shut him out, and then called Grandma to send Aunt Lucy over. Grandma agreed immediately. Over the phone, I could hear Mia's voice, excitedly asking, Can I live here? Can I stay here forever? Grandma, Dad, you guys are so nice. Ah. No wonder she agreed so quickly, afraid that my return would upset Mia. Such a kind family, sacrificing their own granddaughter for one who isn't even related by blood. Clearly, not all families are made the same. After Aunt Lucy arrived, I asked her to take the hair for DNA testing. She hesitated. Yami, this isn't right. Aunt Lucy, I insisted. Do you not have doubts? Aunt Lucy also had her suspicions. Clenching her teeth, she said, then I'll look into it, taking the sample. She discreetly went to the identification center. However, when the day came to collect the results, the report confirmed the parent-child relationship. I was baffled. How could this be? How is this even possible? How could Mia really be my uncle's child? Why does the plot keep thwarting me? Aunt Lucy was also very disappointed. Helplessly, she said, Yami, it seems this is fate. There's nothing we can do about it. Fate. It reminded me of the heroine label over my mom's head. The hero over my dad's, villainous rival over Anna's, and those moments when I was silenced, filled with frustration. I don't believe in fate. Days passed in a daze. Before long, my dad came to take me home. He asked if I could get along well with Mia in the future. Mia, always Mia. At that moment, I deeply empathized with my mom. He's my dad. Why should he dote on another little girl and subconsciously place me in the position of a dominant bully? He's my mom's husband. Why does he feel sorry for another woman, forcing my mom to bow down to her? What are my mom and I to him? Tools to showcase his authority, prestige, and absolute power. I closed the door. You're not my dad. I knew those words were a dagger to his heart. His face was filled with pain. Yami, I turned a deaf ear. At that moment, it felt like a seed of evil was growing in my heart. I desperately wanted to hurt him. Only by hurting him would my heart feel relieved. In the evening, Aunt Lucy continued to read to me the story of a powerful CEO's delicate wife. I interrupted her. Aunt Lucy, I don't want to listen anymore. These stories couldn't save me, nor could they save my mom. I changed direction, asking Aunt Lucy to read many other books to me. I listened to a mix, quickly moving on if one didn't feel right. Aunt Lucy, never weary, pitied me for living like an orphan at such a young age, always indulging me. When I heard about Jane Eyre, my eyes lit up. This woman had something. Then, I heard Pride and Prejudice, and I sat up straight. This was it. My mom should read this. On Christmas, during a snowy day, my mom knocked on my uncle's door. She had come to pick me up. Beside her was a man, and I saw a few words over his head. Romantic supporting role. I wasn't surprised. Every heroine has a second male who likes her. The man, Frank, had gentle eyes and an elegant demeanor, not as intense as my dad. He bent down and asked me very politely and respectfully, Yami, would you like to spend Christmas with your uncle? I wanted to agree. My mom refused. Frank, no need. Thank you for bringing me here. Uncle came out, his face full of guilt, urging Mom to stay for Christmas. Mom coldly replied, no, I've bought a house, and Yami and I will live there together. Uncle was visibly embarrassed and apologized. I'm sorry, Winnie. Then Mom just turned and walked away, looking very cool. Uncle wanted to call out to her but couldn't bring himself to speak, and could only watch us as we left. I said to Mom, actually, I think Uncle is a bit better than Dad. Uncle knew Mia was his daughter and always wanted to bring her back. Between Mom and Anna, he chose Anna. He acts like a husband and a father, even though he's been terrible to us. Mom stopped in her tracks and hugged me tightly. She probably realized something. That's probably what a normal husband and father should do. Trust and protect his wife and daughter. Dad is worse, more despicable, always sacrificing us to satisfy his own sense of loyalty. Frank drove Mom and me back to our house, but at the door, we ran into Dad and Anna. Mom's expression changed, and so did Dad's. In a low voice, Anna said, Sister-in-law, what's this about? Did Mr. Frank use to pursue you? Isn't this a bit inappropriate? She knew how to stir trouble. I couldn't hold back and retorted, so you and Dad together is just sibling affection, but there's a problem if Uncle Frank is with Mom. Your mind is full of dirty trash. Anna stood there with her mouth agape, a look of shock plastered across her face. Tears soon began to fall, one by one, painting a picture of utter despair. Sister-in-law, she said, I spent a long time mentally preparing myself today to let go of the past and get along with you, but then you had a child insult me. Which is just too much. I'm sorry, I can't accept you. With that, she ran off, stumbling as she went. I couldn't help but feel pity for her. Dad, however, didn't chase after her. Instead, he coldly told Uncle Frank, I need to speak with my wife alone. Please leave. Uncle Frank didn't look at him but turned to my mom instead. Only after seeing her nod did he softly say, call me anytime if you need. He was ready to leave. I whispered to him, Uncle Frank, can I go with you? I don't like Dad. I want to stay with you. Frank smiled joyfully at this. Dad's face turned grim, his teeth clenched in frustration, powerless to respond. When Uncle Frank picked me up, I firmly told my dad, Anna was wrong, Mom didn't teach me to say those things. It's just that I really dislike Anna and you're not a good father or a good husband, but you are a good brother to Anna. Frank gasped, probably surprised by my sharp tongue for the first time. Dad looked as if he'd been struck by lightning, staring at me with a look full of sorrow. Mom, on the other hand, showed no pity. She opened the door and said indifferently, if you have something to say it quickly. It's Christmas, and I don't want to argue. Outside, Frank and I waited. He played with me, building a snowman and setting off fireworks, holding my hand as we made footprints in the snow. He would make a good dad, but having heard so many stories, I know that secondary characters rarely come out on top. Besides, I didn't want my mom's life to be a series of men taking turns. Letting men control her destiny would be a tragedy. She should live like the true heroines in books, with thoughts, capabilities, and an interesting life of her own. I asked Frank, what do you like about my mom? He smiled and said, your mom is great, the best girl I've ever met. If she ever gets divorced, do you think it's okay if I pursue her? I was about to answer when his phone rang. He looked at it, and his face visibly darkened. I became wary. Many secondary characters have numerous lovers, and I wondered if Frank was any different. After hanging up, he became very quiet. I chose to remain silent too. It seemed Frank was no exception. Soon after, Dad came downstairs, visibly furious. He glanced at me and coldly said, "Yami, come home with me." Mom quickly followed, protectively standing by my side. "Yami stays with me, please leave." The tension between them was palpable. Dad's face was a cold shade of blue as he said, "I was being lenient for your sake before, now, you face the consequences." Mom retorted angrily, "Timo, stop with the tricks. Don't make me lose respect for you." Dad, with a cold expression, got into his car and left. The car sped off furiously, disappearing into the dust. I asked my mom, "What do you like about Dad?" Mom couldn't answer. After a while, she said, "It's all in the past. Mom and I lived together, both of us yearning for a peaceful life. After much reflection, we realized that the peace we desired meant living without Dad, Grandma, Anna, and even my uncle." She switched my kindergarten to a less prestigious one, but it was closer to home and the teachers were gentle. She worked hard, opening a design studio where her talent began to emerge in the industry. However, she wasn't necessarily happy because my uncle's company was being targeted. Unable to withstand the pressure, Uncle came to seek Mom's help, leaning against the car, smoking cigarette after cigarette, his hair a mess and his expression one of utter defeat. It was clear he was overwhelmed. Seeing Mom, his eyes briefly lit up, but quickly dimmed. "Timo has targeted the company, and we've lost several contracts, including some of your shares. I need to discuss with you what to do." "What do you plan to do?" Uncle didn't answer, as if making up his mind. "Maybe I should just apologize to Timo. Kids need their father, right?" Mom was stunned. Tears swirled in her eyes, but she held them back. She slapped Uncle Simon across the face. "Simon, you disgust me. I never learned to curse from the tortured heroines in stories." I carried a bucket of water, yelled, "Mom, move," and doused Uncle from upstairs. The water soaked him. His gaze turned dark, glaring fiercely at me. "Yami, have you no manners? You're an outsider. You can't tell me what to do. Come down here. You bullied me last time and I kept quiet, but not this time." He charged upstairs. Mom blocked him. "Simon, dare you? Do you think I don't know your plans? You've been moving assets around in secret, trying to kick me out of the company, and when that failed, someone quietly bought my shares. Are you planning to give my belongings as a dowry to Anna?" I was silent. So much had happened without my knowledge. Mom had been under so much pressure, and she hadn't said a word. Uncle Simon's face turned ashen, a flash of shame crossing his features. Clearly, he knew his actions were dishonorable. He said coldly, "This is what we owe Anna. I've ruined her life. You caused her heart condition to flare up, keeping her in the hospital long term. It's not just your shares. I'll also give her part of mine. I didn't tell you earlier to avoid hurting you, but now that you know, there's no point in hiding it anymore. Winnie, we owe it to Anna. Are you insane? This is the only legacy left by our parents, the result of their hard work. Also, I owe nothing to Anna, nothing at all." Mom was nearly driven to the brink of madness. It was rare for her to lose her composure, but this time she was utterly hysterical. Uncle had crossed a line. With a sneer, Uncle said, "You're unrepentant. Dare you say it wasn't you who forced Anna to go abroad? Wasn't it you whose actions led to her falling and triggering her heart condition? Did you not instigate Yami to bully Mia, trying to drive her out of Timo's house? And what about that car accident she had? Was that not orchestrated by you?" Tears finally began to fall from Mom's eyes. She pounded on Uncle's chest, unleashing her anger. "Simon, are you a fool? Don't you know me at all? Even Timo suspects me. And now you too. You're my brother. How can you believe another woman over your own sister, just because she spent a night with you?" At that moment, Simon slapped Mom. The world went silent. Simon said coldly, "Don't you dare insult Anna. Winnie, you and your daughter are both ill-mannered." Mom stared at him blankly, her tears ceasing to fall. Holding her face, she looked at Simon in disbelief, as if he were a stranger. My heart ached terribly. I screamed and rushed downstairs, throwing punches and kicks at Simon. "Don't you dare mistreat my mom." No one was allowed to mistreat her. He pushed me to the ground, and as Mom hurried to pull me up, we were both knocked down by his overwhelming force. Her arm protected my head, but her own head hit the ground hard. "Winnie, I'm giving you one last chance. Sell your shares to me, I'll give them to Anna, and Timo will back off. That way, you'll still have some money. Also, go back to Timo's house and apologize to Anna. Stop targeting her. I will marry Anna, and she won't have to deal with you anymore. It's better for everyone." He didn't glance back at us as he turned, got into his car, and drove away swiftly. I struggled to my feet, trying to help Mom, but my hand touched blood. I was terrified. Mom said, "Yami, darling, Mommy's fine." She tried to get up but collapsed again and passed out. That was probably the darkest day of my life. Crying, I called Frank. He came quickly, picked Mom up, and took her to the hospital. Only after everything had settled did I realize my ankle was swollen, so much so that I couldn't walk. But at that moment, I felt nothing. Frank held me, tears falling as he said, "Yami, you've suffered. Next time you're hurt, tell an adult immediately. Don't bear it alone." I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I wondered, was I wrong? Why did things get worse when I just wanted to help Mom? Why was the journey so painful, even though I was sure of a happy ending? I can't save my mom. Books can't save either of us either. The female protagonist in the torture-themed story seems unable to escape the grip of the plot. I softly said, "Uncle Frank, I wish you were my dad." A cold snicker followed. I looked up to see a young boy scoffing. Him being a dad isn't anything special. The boy, about 10, leaned against the door with a lunchbox in his hand, his gaze coldly fixed on Frank. Frank's expression changed. "What are you doing here? None of your business." "Henry, don't be rude. I was raised by a mother without a father's guidance. Indeed, I'm not as polite as others." The boy glared at me hatefully, his eyes filled with jealousy, as if I was stealing his father. I wondered if I had looked at Mia with the same eyes before. In that moment, it felt so pointless. The boy, clearly older and harboring resentment towards me, likely stemmed from an unintended consequence of Uncle Frank's youthful indiscretions. Now, the child had come knocking, while Frank was still pursuing my mother, according to the tropes of torture-themed novels. It's likely that instead of taking revenge on Frank, the boy would target my mother. What rotten luck. I can never be too trusting again. The world seems to be a massive trap, and one misstep could see you fall. I coldly said, "Uncle Frank, thank you, but please do not contact us anymore. I don't want anyone causing trouble for my mother. She is innocent and I won't let anyone hurt her." Frank looked embarrassed and sighed. "This is complicated. Rest up. I'll come by when I can and sort things out." He left with the boy, who reluctantly followed, torn between the desire for closeness and the fear of losing face, awkwardly unwilling to leave. He must be longing for familial love. I contacted Aunt Lucy to discreetly arrange for my mother's transfer to another hospital. True to her word, Aunt Lucy came. She held me in her arms, tears falling as she saw my mother, crying even more bitterly. "It's inhumane. How could they treat your mother like this? Indeed, they are inhumane. How could they demean their own wife and sister just to assert their masculinity? Trampling someone's dignity to uphold their male pride is utterly despicable. I feel ashamed to have once called those two men Dad and Uncle." Aunt Lucy swiftly handled the transfer. I wanted to tell my mother about Frank, but the words wouldn't come, and I just scoffed, looking out the window. After my mother woke up, she became much quieter. Aunt Lucy took leave to care for her, often reading Pride and Prejudice to her in front of me, perhaps as a hint. My mother listened silently, her expression growing ever more resolute. Women often fantasize about love far too unrealistically. A person can invite misery through mere weakness or indecision. Love is the light that emerges after shedding pride and prejudice. I sensed a growing strength in her tranquility, giving rise to hope within me. Perhaps my mom could break free from the plot. Maybe, can we win this? On the day of discharge, Aunt Lucy was delighted to help us with the paperwork. However, while we were hailing a taxi at the entrance, a car pulled up in front of my mother. The window rolled down, revealing Timo's cold face. He said icily, "Get in." My mother ignored him and moved to another spot. Timo didn't say another word and drove off. Soon, Aunt Lucy's phone rang, and she looked utterly shocked, nearly dropping her phone. Timo's voice came through clearly, "You're fired." My mother took the phone. "Timo, do you really want me to come back? Come back or not, your choice." "Fine, I'll come back. I'll apologize to you and Anna. and then we'll get a divorce. Are you happy now? Oh, you've come to terms with it. Then kneel and apologize. The call ended. Aunt Lucy was on the verge of tears. Winnie, don't go back there. It's no place for people. I'm quitting anyway. As a top nanny, others will be eager to hire me. But my mother and I knew it wasn't that simple. Top nannies are rare, but those who can afford such nannies are all from the same circle. Offending Timo for a nanny didn't make sense to them. My mother hugged Aunt Lucy. Sis, come back with me. Without you, Yami will be bullied. I trust no one else but you. Don't worry about me. Just take care of Yami. You're my sister for life. Aunt Lucy cried. My mother cried. I cried too. We took a taxi, returning to the old house with heavy hearts. Yet, when we arrived, the house was empty. Timo had taken Grandma, Anna, and Mia to an auction. That night's news reported that he had extravagantly purchased an exquisite, rare gemstone necklace for 100 million. The necklace was on Anna's neck, her smile radiant and imposing like a dazzling, luxurious bloom. Mia was hailed as the most beautiful little lady, her innocent large eyes winning her many fans. Everyone was praising Timo, calling him an exceptional brother, quite fitting. Since he would never earn the titles, exceptional husband or exceptional father, in this lifetime, when they returned, the house was lively, even the servants seemed to come alive. My mother and I stayed quietly in our room, but Anna did not want to leave us alone. She knocked on our door. Sister-in-law, come out, I've brought you a gift. I specifically bid on this necklace for you. Do you like it? My mother opened the door. Anna, with her back towards Timo and the others, sneered maliciously, speaking in a voice as thin as a mosquito's. 3 million, quite a bargain for a wench like you, but, considering my brother bought me one for 100 million, I'm still not at a loss. Put it on quickly, or he'll get angry again. Saying you're bullying me. Mom looked pale and was seething with anger, yet she could not vent her frustration. After all, what Anna said was true. If she dared to refuse, Timo would dare to be angry. He was pig-headed, utterly thoughtless. I kneeled down with a thump, sobbing uncontrollably. Please stop bullying my mom. She's not a horrible person. Please stop muttering insults about her. If you must yell, yell at me instead. Anna seemed slightly panicked, her face ashen, grinding her teeth in anger. Timo rushed over, pulled me up harshly, and glared at my mother. How could you be so despicable, teaching her to lie and frame others? He accused. Mom scoffed coldly. Yes, I'm despicable, and aren't you just as vile? Begging me to come back. Winnie, do you think I can't handle you? Don't push it too far. Regretting it, then get a divorce. Once you're rid of me, you can marry your precious little sister. Timo's face turned blue with rage as he raised his hand, like a young calf. I charged at him, knocking him back a few steps. He staggered and then coldly ordered, take the young lady away, lock her up. The servants hesitated but eventually lifted me up. Mom tried to protect me but Timo forcefully grabbed her wrist. I wanted to cry and struggle, but quickly remembered what happened the last time I made a fuss. I held back my tears, hugged the servant's neck, and told my mom, don't worry, I'll behave. I'll take care of myself, and you take care of yourself too. Stay strong, I mouthed silently. Mom cried. Timo held her tightly, so tightly he didn't see Anna's venomous gaze fixed on Mom. I thought to myself, stupid Timo, just turn around once and you'll see how blind you are. But he didn't. All his energy was focused on Mom. He seemed to genuinely love her. But why then did he choose to hurt? Mom and I were isolated from each other. I couldn't see her, nor could she see me. Only Aunt Lucy, having pleaded with Grandma, came to take care of me. But even she had no news of Mom. It was as if Mom was imprisoned, vanished from the outside world. I returned to my old kindergarten. No one welcomed me, neither the teachers nor the classmates liked me. I didn't need their affection. Sometimes Simon would come to pick up Mia. Mia flaunted her favored status to me. I didn't envy her. I thought she was foolish, vying for a father's love as a child, and probably for another man's love as an adult. People like her perhaps see themselves as pets rather than as humans, but I consider myself a person. If someone loves me, of course, I'm happy. If no one loves me, it's okay, I will love myself. But she probably will never learn that. I always feel like I can foresee her future, perhaps another like her mother, or maybe another like my mom. In any case, it was all a tragedy. Sometimes Simon looked at me as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. I wouldn't let him get close. I'd just tell him to get lost. Over time, we became like strangers to each other. 3 months passed like this. One day, during class, I suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of panic, as if something terrible was about to happen. I rushed to the door, but the teacher caught and held me in a tight embrace. Through my tear-blurred eyes, I pleaded with her, "Teacher, I need to go home. Call Timo. I want my mom." "Yami, are you feeling unwell? Tell me, and I'll help you," she said. "I need to go home. Something might have happened to my mom. Please, call my dad." Saying the word dad made me feel deeply ashamed, as if I had betrayed my mom, but for her sake, I could endure it. The teacher hesitated, then made the call. However, no one answered. She tried again and again, but the calls were repeatedly disconnected. Not wanting to take matters into her own hands, she took me to the school nurse. I pretended to be obedient and, while she was talking to the doctor, I managed to call Aunt Lucy. Aunt Lucy arrived quickly, accompanied by Frank. Frank took me to a hospital where my mom lay unconscious on a hospital bed, her head wrapped in bandages and her body swathed in gauze. Frank asked Aunt Lucy to take good care of me, then he started fighting with my dad. "You scum, you beast. How could you do this to Winnie?" Timo didn't hesitate to fight back. "I don't need an outsider meddling with my wife," he retorted. These two prominent businessmen were now brawling in the hospital, exposing each other's dark secrets. That's when I learned that someone had kidnapped Anna and my mom, forcing Timo to make a choice. Timo chose Anna, and my mom was pushed into the sea. Anna then disappeared. In Timo's view, he had done his utmost by staying with mom and letting others search for Anna. Frank was no saint either. When he was about 15 or 16, he slept with the girl next door. After their encounter, she went abroad, secretly had a child, and planned to raise him quietly. Unfortunately, she got cancer. With no other options, she contacted Frank to take care of the child. That child was Henry. Timo challenged Frank, questioning his right to pursue my mom given he already had a child. I told them to get out and fight. They were so noisy. They were so disgusting. They had no right to be in my mom's presence. They finally quieted down. For many days after, I stayed by my mom's side day and night like a lion, not allowing anyone near her. Timo tried to lock me up again. I grabbed a fruit knife and slashed it across my wrist. "If you're not afraid of me dying, then lock me up." He was deeply hurt. With red eyes, he said, "Yami, go away." He stated, "I'm sorry." I turned away, feeling nauseous. After that, they stopped visiting. My mother also woke up. Seeing me, she smiled. "Yami has been through a lot," she said. "It hasn't been tough," I replied. "It has been tough for Mom. If it weren't for me being a burden, perhaps Mom wouldn't have had to endure all this." The tragedy of the protagonist in stories seems inescapable. I wonder, if I were gone, could Mom escape this fate? I ponder this question sometimes, getting lost in thought. When Mom could move, she loved to tousle my hair and kiss my cheek. She would praise me repeatedly. "My little Yami is so amazing. How can such a brave girl exist? When you grow up, you'll definitely be brave and strong." Wow, little Yami, recognizing such difficult words. Your learning ability is so strong. You'll definitely be talented and capable when you grow up. Wow, little Yami can take care of herself now. Such amazing practical skills. Seeing you like this makes Mom so happy. The gloom in my heart was dispelled quite a bit, even giving rise to a secret pride. I'm so great. I will surely overcome this rotten plot. Mom just needs to wait for me to grow up just a bit more. She urged me to go back to kindergarten. "Yami, you need to learn skills. Only then can you leave home when you grow up, go to faraway places, and pursue your dreams." I went, and then, I regretted going. That day, I was restless. During the second class, I told the teacher I needed to return to the hospital. The teacher looked deeply into my eyes. This time, she didn't hesitate. She tried calling Timo, but couldn't reach him. She took leave, hailed a taxi, and took me to the hospital. There, we saw a crowd gathered below the hospital. My mother was sitting by a window, which had been smashed. Behind her, I could see the shadows of people moving, and Timo's face, panicked. He was shouting something in horror. My mother didn't respond to a word. She saw me in the crowd, panicked momentarily, but then she smiled. She looked at me, mouthed something, and then, without hesitation, she jumped. There was a loud thump. The teacher covered my eyes. My mind went blank, a piercing white. For a long time, I couldn't speak. I didn't respond to anyone. I only recognized Aunt Lucy in my dazed state. Timo tried to talk to me, but Aunt Lucy pushed him away. Mr. Timo, if you really care about Yami, stop bothering her. If it weren't for the fact that I can't secure Yami's custody, I would make sure you never see her again. In that moment, she was the true head of the household, and Timo, unable to utter a word, walked away staggeringly, his eyes red. He looked somewhat pitiful. For some reason, I felt he was despicable and a bit disgusting. I asked Aunt Lucy, "Who is that man?" Aunt Lucy coldly replied, "A stranger." Aunt Lucy took care of my meals, sleep, studies, and play, and we never stepped outside. However, the house was always a mess, with various arguments heard daily. They seemed to be targeting a woman. That woman, along with her child, came every day to plead, asking the man named Timo to let them go. She admitted her mistakes, begging him to remember their past and spare her and her daughter. Yet Timo was always ruthlessly shouting, demanding they pay the price. Curiously, I asked Aunt Lucy what was happening. She always scoffed and disdainfully said, "A scumbag and a mistress. They deserve their fate, a bunch of lowlifes." Oh, so, they are the bad guys. That's none of my business then. One day, when no one was around, Aunt Lucy took me downstairs for a walk. As soon as we went out, a woman burst from a secluded corner and knelt before me. Not only did she kneel, but she also pulled her little girl to kneel with her. "Yami, we were wrong. Please, ask your father to let Mia and me go. I will go abroad and never disturb your life again. Please plead for us." Aunt Lucy screamed, shielding me, telling them to go away. Curiously, I peeked from behind her and asked, "Who are you?" The woman's pitiful face briefly showed a mix of malice and joy, but she forcefully suppressed it, looking especially bizarre. "Have you really lost your memory?" I could sense her hidden excitement and mockery, which I found quite meaningless. I didn't want to talk to someone who was both insensitive and took pleasure in others' misfortunes. I obediently followed Aunt Lucy and left. The woman tried to rush towards us, but was firmly held down by a bodyguard rushing out. Timo hurriedly got out of his car from a distance and ran towards me. "Yami, are you all right?" I lay on Aunt Lucy's shoulder, not looking at him. "Auntie, I'm tired. I want to go home. It's too noisy here." Timo halted in his tracks, turning to look at Anna with a stern command. "Shut her up." Instantly, someone dislocated Anna's jaw. She was overwhelmed with terror, tears streaming down her face. Even Mia's mouth was stuffed with a cloth gag, leaving her utterly silenced. "Quite dull, really." I closed my eyes and quickly drifted off to sleep. After that, Anna never appeared before me again. It was as if she had vanished from the world. The woman they called Grandma lingered around me daily, always looking at me with tender eyes, urging me to eat and drink more. She was so annoying. Aunt Lucy seemed to be under someone's thumb. Looking terribly upset but daring not to contradict the woman, I had to take matters into my own hands to make her realize how irritating she was. I wouldn't touch the food she mentioned, even if I had already picked it up, placing it back down as soon as she spoke. After a few times, she got the message and started crying. Is Yami blaming Grandma? Grandma really didn't know back then. Grandma didn't know about your mother. Madam, stop talking. The doctor has mentioned that Yami shouldn't hear these things right now. Aunt Lucy hurriedly interrupted her. The old lady shut her mouth, tears secretly falling, but I felt nothing, just found her annoying. Can't she just go back to her room and cry quietly? Was she expecting my sympathy or comfort by crying in front of me? Sorry, but I don't like comforting others, especially not some random old lady. It wasn't long before the old lady was sent away. I heard that on the day she left. She had an argument with Timo. She told him, "Yami is ruined. For the sake of our family's future, you should have another child. I don't care how, just have another one." Timo looked at her coldly and said without mercy, "Mom, you're old, you shouldn't worry about these things. If you hadn't adopted a daughter, none of these tragedies would have happened, and Winnie wouldn't have." "Shut up, don't mention that woman's name ever again. She's dead, and dead means dead. Someone so unlucky was never meant to be our daughter-in-law. Send the old lady to the countryside and make sure she never comes back." "Timo, I am your mother." "Mom, it's time for you to leave." the old lady was carried out, her face filled with shock and disbelief. I watched from the window-sill, amused by her struggle like a little chick. It was quite entertaining. But then, "Who is Winnie?" I turned and asked Aunt Lucy. Aunt Lucy was terrified. "Yammy, don't move around. Come down from the window." Her voice trembled. I was curious, yet I obediently came down. She hugged me tight, as if holding a treasured possession regained. The next day, all the windows in the villa were fenced with iron bars, like a prison. I was not pleased. That night, my spirits were low, and I went to sleep early. But in the middle of the night, a muffled cry woke me. I quietly stepped out. At the doorway of the study, I saw Timo crying, holding a notebook in his hands. Tears streaming down his face. "Winnie, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought Anna was violated because of me, and I just wanted to make it up to her, never intending to let you down." Exhausted from crying, he eventually fell into a deep sleep. I quietly walked in, noticing the notebook in his grip. Sliding it out, I began flipping through it page by page. It was a woman's love diary. After reading a few pages, I found it quite dull. Romantic love, precious to those involved, didn't captivate me as a reader. I was only interested in the most dramatic parts. As I read on to the back, I learned about the short and tragic life of a woman named Winnie. She was misunderstood, framed, and bullied. Initially, she tried to fight back, to resist, to seek justice, but gradually, she felt like an animal trapped in a glass container, bleeding from every attempted escape. She sought solace in love, only to be wounded all over. She hoped for her family's protection, but her own brother pushed her away. She tried to build a career, working diligently at a friend's company, only to almost bring it down due to her husband's actions. She attempted to establish herself by opening a design studio with her last funds, but faced endless blockades and always ended up losing. She found herself with nowhere to turn, feeling that only by submitting to her husband could she survive without dignity. But how could a person just give up their dignity? Most terrifyingly, she seemed to have uncovered a secret about her daughter, a secret she never revealed. Strangely, her daughter was named Yami, exactly like me. After finishing the diary, I placed it on the table. Glancing down, I saw a neatly bound paper report in an open drawer. I glanced through it, not understanding much except for a few names. It was a paternity test report concerning a man named Simon and a little girl named Mia. Test result: the evidence does not support a biological parent-child relationship between sample 1 and sample 2. What did this mean? Overwhelmed, I lay down on the couch and fell asleep. The next morning, I was abruptly awakened by a loud roar. Blearily opening my eyes, I saw a man furiously slapping Timo's face with the report. "Timo, why do you have this paternity test? Why do you have such a report? Why did you lie to me?" Timo awoke, brushing off the man's blows, and said coldly, "Simon, get out and stop this madness." Simon let out an angry scoff. "You beast, you made me believe Mia was my own, you ruined me and my sister, I won't let you get away with this." He stormed out. Timo briefly collected himself and explained, "At the time, I wanted to spare Anna the pain. I would rather have her believe it was you, not many others involved. So, you decided to pin this on me. Do you realize, because of that despicable woman, I hurt Winnie, you hurt your own sister?" Simon roared, tears streaming down his face. Timo trembled all over, clenched his fists in anger. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Timo, you will pay for this. I couldn't protect her while she was alive. But now, even if it means fighting you to the death, I will seek justice for her," he said as he strode away. Timo, disheartened, slumped into a chair, locked his diary in a drawer, and quickly left. They all failed to notice me lying quietly on the sofa. I went out the door, found Aunt Lucy, and told her what had happened. Aunt Lucy was silent for a while before she went out to make a phone call. Soon, she was arguing excitedly with someone on the other end. From her disjointed words, I understood. Initially, Aunt Lucy had conducted a paternity test, but Timo had taken the report early and replaced it with a fake one to protect a woman named Anna. When Anna was young, she tried to drug Timo but was driven away by him. Then, she was assaulted. She came back, pitifully blaming everything on Timo. Out of guilt, Timo sent her abroad and continued to secretly support her, compensating her in various ways. In fact, that day, she indeed slept with Simon, but the child was not Simon's. The child was conceived abroad through her affairs but was framed to be Simon's. Thinking her experience that day was tragic, Timo tampered with the test results so she wouldn't feel tainted by many men, letting her believe she was only violated by Simon. He tried hard to maintain Anna's innocence, unaware of how freely Anna was behaving outside. The situation was somewhat ironic. When Aunt Lucy returned, she was so upset she had a headache. Yummy. If only a stranger could fight for your custody, I would definitely take you away from here, she said. I hugged her and giggled. Aunt Lucy also laughed, but tears streamed down her face as she did. Simon and Timo were at odds. During this time, Timo rarely came home, but every time he did, he would smash many things, and the household staff were resigning one by one. Aunt Lucy kept me informed. She told me Simon was using every means possible to ally with others to target Timo's family business. Hearing that Simon was recklessly transferring benefits, those who had long coveted Timo's family business and disapproved of Timo's actions for his mistress at the expense of his wife showed no mercy. I asked, doesn't he have friends? Won't his friends help him? Aunt Lucy sighed. His reputation is already ruined. Who would want to collaborate with a fool? Is reputation that important? Yes, a good reputation is quite important. When the wall falls, everyone pushes it, everyone sees when someone is in the wrong. So that's how it is. Timo desperately wanted to hold a press conference to prove the business was still operating well, and I secretly followed to the event, crying and clutching at Timo's clothes. Please don't keep me locked up at home anymore. I don't want to be confined anymore. I want to play with other kids. That day, Timo was in a panic. He tried hard to suppress his anger and had someone take me away. I fell to the ground, clinging tightly to his legs. Don't lock me in that small room, I don't want to be confined. Countless cameras were trained on me as I cried, appearing both pitiful and innocent, my emotions raw and heartfelt. Timo's press conference ended abruptly. I learned from the internet that many were cursing him and praising me, commenting on how pretty and adorable I looked. How could a child lie? Oh, sorry. But children can lie too. A man who drove his wife to death for his mistress, how could he be expected to treat his wife's daughter well? Indeed, he treated me terribly. Poor little girl, I really want to hug her. A child without a mother is like a blade of grass, and Timo is simply a beast. You're right, thank you. Satisfied, I fell asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to find Timo standing by my bed. Yummy, you've regained your memory, haven't you? Do you hate Daddy? I just stared at him silently, noticing the word, protagonist, above his head, which seemed dimmer than before. Perhaps, without a heroine in this world, who needs a hero? I turned over and went back to sleep. Later on, Timo began to sell off his assets. His reputation online had collapsed, stock prices were falling, and with competitors targeting him, he started liquidating assets to save his company. Many suspected he was abusing me, demanding he let me out so they could see I was safe. But I firmly refused to leave the house. If anyone tried to take me out, Aunt Lucy would protect me fiercely. Then one day, Aunt Lucy disappeared. Timo looked at me and said softly, Yummy, you don't want Daddy to go bankrupt, do you? Shall we go out together? Sure. I reached out for him to carry me. There were reporters downstairs. I then realized he had agreed to an interview to salvage his reputation. He carried me down the stairs, portraying the image of a powerful dad with his little princess. However, I secretly stuck a needle into his flesh. He looked at me in shock and let go. I fell from his arms, tumbling down the stairs. I screamed, lying on the ground and spitting out blood. Daddy, don't kill me. I'll do whatever you say. People rushed over and surrounded me, keeping him away. His face showed a mix of frustration, anger, and extreme injustice. I was in pain, but inside, I felt exhilarated. Finally, I had made him experience the taste of being utterly defenseless. I was taken to the hospital. When I woke up, Frank and Aunt Lucy were all around me. They asked me cautiously how I felt. I tried to speak, but the pain was too much. Aunt Lucy cried and cursed Timo as a beast. I smiled. Yes, keep the curses coming. I love to hear them. Frank said he would make Timo pay dearly. Only later did I discover that he had a hand in the targeted takedown of Timo's family. He and Simon exhausted all their resources and finally brought Timo down, but not without significant cost. Simon paid an even higher price. Now facing bankruptcy, online, everyone was vilifying Timo and sympathizing with me. Comments like, You can tell he's never cared for a child by the way he holds one. How could such a scoundrel make so much money? I'd be wrong to give him another cent. And boycott Timo's family. Boycott the scum. Spread everywhere. Timo and his family's reputation was completely destroyed. Later, I saw Timo on the news. He had been detained. Simon, leading a group, stormed into Timo's house and found Anna barely alive in the basement. It was all live-streamed. Anna was unrecognizable from the torture she endured in that basement, sparking widespread outrage across the internet. Timo was arrested for illegal detention. The footage of his arrest played repeatedly across major platforms, showing him utterly defeated and despondent, like a dog who had lost its home. I saw the label, Hero, disappear from over his head. Timo didn't let Simon off the hook either. After being imprisoned, he quickly submitted evidence of Simon embezzling company funds. Simon ended up in jail too. The most desperate was Anna, still in her hospital bed. She eagerly started a live stream to craft her image as a pitiable victim. However, an anonymous letter exposing her self-directed kidnapping plot and her attempts to frame Winnie shocked everyone. People lamented, "Love among the rich is so melodramatic. Art imitates life, but is nowhere near as dramatic." Seeing such outrageous plots, I knew it had to be real. You couldn't make this up. And it feels good to be ordinary, but I pity that little girl. Her mother killed by a mistress, her father in jail. How is she going to live? Indeed, how am I to live now? I am without parents, with only a grandmother left, but she had a stroke the day she found out Timo was jailed, and now she's paralyzed and bedridden, forced into a nursing home. Aunt Lucy wants to adopt me, but she isn't married and doesn't meet the criteria. Frank also wants to adopt me, for my sake. He even found a girl willing to marry him in a sham marriage. To convince me, he brought her and Henry over. The girl seemed genuinely kind and romantic. She whispered, "Don't worry. Mr. Frank paid me. Once the adoption is finalized, I'll divorce him and go abroad, and I'll take good care of you. I swear on my future fortune." Her vow seemed heartfelt. She was so endearing, yet, I laughed. "Thank you, but I think I'd rather go to an orphanage," I said. She was stunned. "Why?" she asked. I shook my head, my gaze drifting towards Henry. Henry gave me a cold look, then bowed his head and kicked at the ground, muttering, "I agree to the adoption. I'll treat you like a real sister from now on." That was exactly what I was afraid of. Unbeknownst to him, the words, "hero," were faintly forming above his head. If I agreed, those words might just solidify. I wonder what words hover over me, heroine, or evil supporting female. Having read so many dominant CEO novels, I could almost predict the plot twists that would follow. If Frank were to adopt me, it would mean vying for the sparse paternal affection from Henry. Over time, this would breed resentment in him and a sense of debt in me. Perhaps, as we grew older, that indebtedness might morph into affection. If he were to like me, he'd have to wrestle with his internal resentment. If not, he might resort to morally coercing me to compensate him, which would just spiral into another cliché drama where the heroine suffers. I had no interest in being the protagonist or the villainess. I just wanted an ordinary life. One that belonged to Yami. A life that wouldn't dazzle, but where I'd shine for myself. I wouldn't let myself be trapped by anyone. I would only fight for myself. I softly declined. "No thank you, Uncle Frank. I don't need it. My mother never liked owing anything to anyone, and neither do I." I placed my hand in the director of the orphanage's hand. Henry watched me, stunned. Yami, the label, hero, above his head disappeared. I genuinely smiled at him, waved goodbye, and stepped towards my new future. Time passed, and I grew up quietly in the orphanage. Aunt Lucy often visited me. The tag, passionate second hero, above Frank's head also vanished. He became just another ordinary businessman, initially managing to donate to the orphanage, but eventually, he was swallowed by the ever-changing tides of commerce. Timo committed suicide in prison. Towards the end, he became delusional, often saying, "The story wasn't supposed to go like this. It should have been different. I should have won her back, and we would have lived happily ever after. Yami should grow up happy, and we should have another child, growing old together. How could she die? She's the heroine. How could she die?" After a long rant, he hanged himself with a bedsheet in his prison cell. The coroner said he had embraced death because although he could have lived simply by standing up, he never wanted to stand again. His death was quiet, Known only to a few familiar faces, everyone was worried I'd be heartbroken, but I listened to his story as if it was from a stranger and moved on. Perhaps he had his realization too, but it was just too late. After all, who decided that the heroine must follow the script? The heroine is a person first, then a protagonist, a wife, a daughter, a mother. I found the video online of my mother jumping from the building. I watched it over and over, trying to discern what her final words to me were. Later, after learning some lip reading from a teacher at the orphanage who taught sign language to the deaf and mute, I finally understood. My dear mother had said, "Mommy's yummy, mommy is breaking free from the script, and you must strive too." At that moment, tears streamed down my face, grief overwhelmed me, and I sobbed uncontrollably. Dear Mom, congratulations on breaking free from the script, and congratulations to me too. We both will have a new life, a fresh start as ordinary people. It might not be dazzling, but it's a life striving vigorously upward, isn't it? That's all about this story. Do you have any insights after watching the above story? Feel free to tell us in the comment sections below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe our channel. See you next time.